India's coronavirus crisis is becoming increasingly desperate. Health officials say the country's daily infection count passed 400,000 for the first time on Saturday. The government posted a death toll of over 3,500, with patients overwhelming the medical system. Some people are believed to be dying without any treatment due to a severe shortage of hospital beds and oxygen.
400,000 cases is a very serious situation for our country. People have no alternative but to take precautions and to get vaccinated if they can. Things are really grave.
The government expanded its vaccine rollout program on Saturday to include all people aged 18 or over. Previously, only those aged 45 or above were covered. Local media estimate that means another 600 million people are now eligible. But officials in some states say they don't have enough shots for the wider age group. The government plans to use Russian-made vaccines that it's already approved for emergency use. The United States is also expected to send vaccine ingredients. Now, the coronavirus situation here in Japan. It's been 1 week since the latest state of emergency came into effect. And in Osaka, one of the 4 prefectures under the declaration, the regional healthcare system is under strain. Osaka reported a record 1,262 new cases on Saturday. 41 people died, the second largest daily figure to date. Starting Saturday, Osaka University Hospital set aside all 30 of its beds in its intensive care unit for COVID-19 patients, in line with a request from the prefecture. The hospital is recognized for conducting organ transplants, but a doctor in the ICU says it will be impossible to perform such surgeries if there are no beds available. The western prefecture of Fukuoka, which is not under an emergency declaration, is also seeing a rise in infections. The daily tally has been exceeding 300 in recent days. The prefecture has asked the central government to allow it to implement intensive antivirus measures.
We haven't seen a decline in the number of infected people. Furthermore, available hospital beds are decreasing, making the situation more difficult.
The governor says he will consult with the central government in deciding which municipalities will be subject to the measures and for how long. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide met with a lawmaker who is also a dentist. The government has decided to allow dentists to administer vaccine shots in regions where there are medical staff shortages. They discussed ways to accelerate the vaccine rollout, including using university hospitals as inoculation sites. A new online survey by researchers that included staff from the University of Tokyo has uncovered a troubling result. Only 46.6% of respondents said they have worked out who to consult and what means of transportation they will use should they develop symptoms. Also, only 39% said they are avoiding contact with people older than them. The researchers say the results suggest there is insufficient awareness among people despite being more than a year into the pandemic. Across the country, officials reported nearly 6,000 new cases on Saturday. The daily count in Tokyo was 1,050. A UN agency is warning nearly half of Myanmar's population may fall into poverty by early next year. The United Nations Development Program says this is due to the combined impact of the coronavirus pandemic and February's military coup. The UNDP released a report on Friday. In it, the agency says revenues are falling in a wide range of industrial sectors because of the pandemic. The study points out economic deterioration accelerated due to insufficient governmental support following the coup. It says as many as 12 million people may fall into poverty. It adds as many as 25 million individuals could be living below the national poverty line by early 2022. That would be nearly half of Myanmar's population. The country's poverty rate was down to about 25% in 2017. The UNDP is calling on other nations to provide support. It says such assistance is important for Myanmar's peace and security. The U.S. defense chief says his country wants to boost its alliances in the Indo-Pacific. That comes as China increases its military influence in the region.
So we'll be working even more closely with our friends in the Indo-Pacific and elsewhere, particularly in Europe, to strengthen a rules-based international order that favors the advance of freedom.
Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was speaking at a military ceremony in Hawaii on Friday. He described America's allies as the foundation of our shared security. The event marked Admiral John Aquilino taking over the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. Aquilino underlined the importance of the region, calling it the priority theater for the United States. President Joe Biden's administration has been reviewing the U.S. military presence around the world amid growing tensions with Beijing. Japanese Foreign Minister Motegi Toshimitsu says Japan will step up support for Bosnia-Herzegovina to help the Western Balkan nation promote ethnic reconciliation. Motegi visited Bosnia-Herzegovina as part of a tour of European nations. He met with Foreign Minister Bisera Turkovic on Saturday. Motegi said Bosnia-Herzegovina has been working for stability in the region since the ethnic conflicts in the former Yugoslavia ended. He said Japan strongly supports the sovereignty and integrity of Bosnia-Herzegovina as a nation. Motegi stated Japan will provide assistance to the Balkan nation in the healthcare and education sectors. The foreign minister added Tokyo will encourage ethnic groups in the country to reconcile with one another. Japan also plans to help eliminate landmines that were left behind after the ethnic conflicts. Motegi said additionally, his country will support Bosnia-Herzegovina's bid for EU membership. He stressed the Western Balkan nations' inclusion in the EU is essential for the unity of Europe. The Chinese embassy in Tokyo has deleted a contentious anti-U.S. tweet that sparked criticism in Japan. It featured an image of the Grim Reaper dressed in the stars and stripes knocking on the door of Egypt. Blood oozed from the doors of other Muslim countries such as Syria and Libya. A message written in Japanese said, "This is what happens when the U.S. brings democracy." The post appeared on Thursday, but was deleted after Japanese Twitter users made comments such as, "Is this really how an embassy should behave?" And "The picture chilled me." The U.S. Embassy in Tokyo said thank you to our Japanese friends for calling out that repulsive tweet. It added this is yet another reminder that the U.S.-Japan alliance is deeply rooted in shared values. China's government has increasingly been using Twitter to promote its interests overseas, often stirring up controversy. Those were the stories for this hour.
In Myanmar, police use earth-moving equipment to smash through demonstrators' barriers during protests in Yangon. In Hong Kong, hundreds of protesters gather near a court for the hearing of 47 democracy activists charged with subversion for organizing an unofficial party election. Security forces in Nigeria continue to search for 317 schoolgirls kidnapped by gunmen in Zamfara State Friday. And 4 million injections of the Johnson & Johnson single-shot COVID-19 vaccine have been sent out. The U.S. government recently approved the vaccine, which is 66% effective.
India is launching an expanded vaccine program as it struggles to tackle a coronavirus crisis which has reached record levels. All adults are now eligible to receive a first dose of the vaccine, but many states are short of supplies. Meanwhile, Australia has banned its own citizens from returning home from India and will jail people who break the rules. President Biden's also banned nearly all travel to the US from India to try to stop the spread of COVID-19. The US and its NATO allies are starting the formal withdrawal of their troops from Afghanistan after an engagement there which has lasted nearly 20 years. New research has found that about 1,000 rivers are responsible for most of the plastic waste in the world's oceans. Plastic kills seabirds and turtles and has been found in our ocean's deepest corners. Those are the headlines here on BBC World News.